All right, it's here. We're in SEC play. We're a quarter of the way through the year already. Can you guys believe that? It really feels like I'm just still excited that football's back, but we're already 25% of the way through by amount of regular season games played. We're hoping there's a lot more to play than that. But this thing's flying by once again, as it always happens. We're learning more and more about the team as we go on. 3 weeks in, we've gotten a good, healthy serving of Texas A&M football in 2023. And I want to talk about where this team stands, the obvious things that need to be fixed, maybe some things that are kind of flying under the radar with this team, some players to expect big things from. Where are we? Where do we stand? What are our chances? This SEC West slate looks very, very much wide open. There's not much space between a lot of these teams. Right now, you might say that LSU has a slight lead over the rest of the conference, just in terms of eye test, in terms of the way things are trending and looking. They had a really good away win versus Mississippi State this weekend. Arkansas lost at home to BYU. Does that change A&M's outlook on the year at all? Auburn, one of the few undefeated SEC teams. Tennessee losing to Florida, who many were laughing at to start the year off with the big loss to Utah. I mean, this thing is wild, and week 3 really stamped that in. Things are all over the place. Not really sure what to expect, guys. The main thing I've been seeing from Aggies across the board is I don't know what the hell to expect at this point. With this team, with the conference, the schedule, this is fun. We don't know where we're going. Let's enjoy the ride because we're already 25% of the way through. Let's keep enjoying Aggie football, guys. Let's try to stay positive for this team. They won the game they had to win. They did the things they had to do versus ULM. They move forward. We have their backs. Obviously, we're always going to have their backs. But what I've been saying is that a lot of things are on the line over these next 3 games. You lose the game to Miami. Sucks. Feels really bad. There were areas of the team that clearly had issues. No pass rush, tackling, secondary issues, O-line inconsistency. There's a lot of things that need shoring up. But I'm not sure if we're going to be facing a team quite as good as Miami over the next couple of weeks. And early in the year, definitely in the preseason, I would have scoffed at that notion. But the way the SEC West is looking, with Alabama struggling to South Florida, there's a lot of things in motion right now, a lot of things in flux, and the opportunity is in front of us. So let's sit back, talk about the team. We've had a good sample size now, 3 games in. Where do the Aggies stand? If you guys like this content, please consider subscribing. It helps me greatly. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year. You guys have been great commenting, giving great feedback about your thoughts on the team, feedback about what I have to say about the team. All that stuff is welcome. Please comment any thoughts you have right now. Like, subscribe. Thank you, guys. So A&M rebounds from the loss to Miami with an expected big win versus Louisiana Monroe. As I said after New Mexico, A&M struggled against this kind of opponent last year. UMass, App State, the sour taste we had in our mouths after Sam Houston, they couldn't do it against the subpar opponents. But Texas A&M has scored over 30 points in each of their first 3 games, something they didn't do last year besides the game versus LSU, and they've held 2 of their 3 opponents to 10 or less points. Of course, those were both against cupcakes, and the one time they played a high-level Power 5 offense, it was a shit show. But Texas A&M did rebound nicely this weekend. I have some positives to take away from this game, more things to work on, obviously, but the positives, once again, start with the man at the helm, Connor Wigman. Does Texas A&M have the best quarterback in the SEC right now? I don't know if you can unequivocally say yes, but you could definitely argue it. It's between him, Jaden Daniels. I'm honestly impressed with what Spencer Rattler can do with a really bad offensive line, still putting up the numbers that he does. He is that offense right now. He's a really good player. It's a shame he doesn't have a better team around him. But Connor Wigman is absolutely in that conversation, and he is just a baby. He's like a newborn deer still learning how to walk. But of course, those suckers are running after a couple of days, and it looks like Connor is going to be running through this SEC slate. He ended on a high note, passing for 86% against, yes, a lackluster team, but we haven't seen that against lackluster teams in a long time at Texas A&M, especially not in back-to-back performances versus such type of team. This game and the game versus New Mexico, where I believe he passed for 78%. Wheeling and dealing, keeping his eyes upfield, throwing very safe, catchable balls, And there's still stuff to clean up. As many of you guys have mentioned, the deep ball is not perfect. He's not leading his receivers perfectly. But what he's great at is finding the soft spots in coverage, getting the ball out of his hands quickly in the face of pressure, in the face of blitzes, giving his offensive line time to come up to speed. And that has been one of the big talking points of the season, is this offensive line, its level of play, its ability to improve on the year last year. So let's start with that dynamic right there. Versus ULM, the O-line had some early struggles. And again, I keep going back to this connection. The center-left guard exchange on blitzes, on twists, and with the right guard at times, but it's more consistently center to left guard. They're missing a lot of twists there. That's the area of the offensive line where I'm seeing the most pressure squirt through between, well, now it's Naboo and Dewberry. Before it was Bryce Foster and either Naboo or Dewberry. No one lacks physically on this offensive line, as I've said time and time again, but they continue to struggle against that kind of defensive line stunts, late blitzes. They're not picking things up. They're not keeping their eyes up. They're not picking the blitzes up perfectly, guys. This is something that I'm kind of concerned about as the level of defensive line continues to improve throughout the course of the year as you progress into this SEC slate. It's not going to get any easier. It just seems to be assignment issues at this point. However, as I've said, it's better than last year. Connor had time this game, the last game, the first game. He has enough time to do what he does. And Connor Wigman's the kind of quarterback that will make it happen with whatever look is being thrown at him. He's good at finding the check down. He's good at making quick reads and getting the ball out of there if need be. But it does limit this offense. It does limit, the deep ball, letting the routes develop if he's going to have pressure in his face at all times. So I'm a little concerned about Dewberry, guys. He was the strength of this offensive line last year. He was the bright spot of the really, really rough year offensively. It just seems like there's a lot of plays where he's getting a little bit lost out there. But he's still super young, guys. He started late last year. So I'm keeping an eye on the interior of this offensive line. That's my big area of concern on this entire offense going forward. But on a very positive note, I think Trey Zune looks really good, guys. He's come a long way from where he was last year. He was definitely the most consistent blocker last game. Maybe he had an easier matchup, but the common theme, they weren't doing it against the easy matchups last year. I really like what we saw from Basantis, looking vicious out there. He really put a nice bounce-back effort on the field after a struggle versus Miami. He did get hurt. He got rolled up on this game. We'll have to monitor that. It's never fun to see that kind of an injury where he's locked in with a defender and then someone rolls up from behind. He tried to go the next play. He had to get subbed out. Crownover took over for him. Crownover looks solid. He has great tools, great length, great pass blocker. He needs to get a little bit lower, a little bit more vicious on his run blocking, but you see the potential there. But you really want to roll with Basantis because he looks like a future NFL player absolutely out there, always looking for someone to hit. I posted on my Twitter this video of them pass blocking a three-man front, and he had no one to block, so he just went and hit a guy that someone else was blocking, absolutely upended him. Awesome to see. Tight end blocking seems to be improving as well. We're really seeing Jake Johnson come into form, and Max Wright is getting involved in the passing game too. Really fun to see those two guys progress forward after Donovan Green went down. They were able to run block pretty well for this young running back trio this game. 150 plus yards rushing on the day, coupled with 399 yards passing. You feel good about 150 if you're going to get 400 passing, guys. That's a number you can live with. It's enough to keep defenses honest. It's enough to say you have that threat. And these guys are going to get better. Reuben Owens, much like Connor Wigman, is a baby. But you see the tools out there. In his first touchdown run of his career, he had a very nice, patient run, let the blocks develop, let the play develop, and then he hit the hole with conviction, got his first points as a collegiate athlete. One of two times that happened versus ULM. Awesome to see that confidence building. And Le'Veon Moss getting back into action feels so good. He looks so explosive. You really have three guys you can lean on at any time. Of course, you don't have that Devon A-Chain playmaker, but you have three guys to rotate, to keep fresh, to get different looks out there. This offensive running game is going to improve. It has improved. It's trending forward. And as Connor gets better, this offense is just going to keep soaring, guys. There might be some shootouts on the horizon because this defense is still a work in progress. That might be putting it nicely. It's still up in the air defensively, in my opinion. But this offense is going to keep this team in games, guys. The receiver group absolutely showed out without its two top dogs this game. Noah Thomas, Evan Stewart, both missed, but they weren't missed that much because Ainias, Ja'Day Walker, Cottrell, the tight ends, so many players got involved in this receiving game versus ULM, guys. Really good stuff to see. And something I'm really encouraged by was the effort to get Ainias Smith involved this game. We knew that Connor had chemistry with Evan Stewart, with Noah Thomas over this offseason 7-on-7 stuff spring, Moose Muhammad, but we didn't know where he stood with Ainias Smith. And to me, that was one of the most exciting things going into this year. Watching the chemistry between Ainias and Connor develop, because they didn't play together last year because Ainias was obviously hurt. And boy, did they establish a connection versus ULM. Ainias leading the team in receptions and yardage. And you had two 100-yard receivers this game with Ainias and Ja'Day Walker. Ja'Day getting involved, you really feel like you can play Ja'Day in big games. Are you guys confident in Ja'Day Walker? I have no issue seeing him on the field at this point. Just what he's shown so far in the year. Hell, he got a punt block versus Miami. He showed up in a big game in a different way that wasn't even just receiving the ball. He brings the energy, and the players have been talking him up all fall camp, and they continue to praise the kid now that he has his opportunity, now that he's playing. This receiver room looks deeper than ever. It looks more fleshed out than ever. I want to see Moose get more involved still. It looks like he has trouble lining up at times, knowing his assignment. He's working through that. That was apparent to me versus ULM. I don't know if you saw there were a lot of players having to direct him and tell him what to do, where to line up. But we know his raw talent, what he can do with the ball in his hands. You hope that continues to trend well. But this receiver group is going to be really fun. This offense is going to be really fun and keep this team in games. Now, if the defense gets up to speed, gets this offense more opportunities, this could be a special team. Let me read you guys the drive chart for the game versus ULM. Offensively, for Texas A&M, field goal, touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. That is 7 straight possessions where you end with points. Or as Jimbo likes to say, end with a kick, no turnovers. Then they had that punt where Nick was able to coffin corner it down to the 1, which was amazing. You love to have that weapon in your punter. Texas A&M's getting used to having that kind of guy between Braden Mann and now Nick. After the punt, touchdown, field goal, end of the game. So as long as this offense has the ball, they seem to have a good chance to make things happen. Now, you wish they would have capitalized on some of those red zone tries. A couple of things broke down for the team, but they were missing 2 of their best red zone threats, 2 of their best scoring threats in Noah and Evan, but they were still able to drive consistently. I wouldn't consider myself worried about that. I would say I have a level of confidence that getting shored up as you get players back and as this offensive line continues to develop. But if this defense can ramp up the aggression, ramp up the big plays, get some turnovers, and give this offense even more opportunities, you're going to feel really good about this team's ability to play complementary football. But there's a lot to work on defensively, so let's get into that. As you progress week to week in a season, you obviously learn more and more about personnel. Which players are your Saturday players? Which ones are not just good in fall camp, not just good at practice, but are the ones that come out and they can put it on the field? I think a couple of names have stood out in some areas of concern on this Texas A&M defense that can really help this defense moving forward. First and foremost, I think Shamar Turner is this team's best pass rusher. I think he clearly needs to be on the field on third downs in pass rush situations. When he's able to pin his ears back, even at his size, he's able to get pressure. We saw him get a strip sack this game. Solo, he beat the tackle off the edge. He got the strip sack from behind. That's exactly what this team needs, and he's the one that's shown that most consistently through 3 games into this year. So I think they're going to need to lean on that more, keep Shamar in there on third downs. I think he is the guy. He is an edge rusher, just the way he plays, even though he's built like a hybrid. It's not traditional, but I think he reminds me a little bit of Michael Clemens, just with that length, that motor, with that size, able to bend and get past tackles and just wreak havoc on the quarterback. I think that's one guy that we can start to lean on more and more on third downs, knowing he's a go-to guy in that scenario. You got to find someone else. I really want to see more Malik Silla out there. But in terms of things that we've learned, for sure, I think Shamar Turner is a third down player every single time. I think he could have a breakout year still. And then in the secondary that has had issues thus far in the year, Jacoby Matthews started this game in place of Jordan Gilbert, and I thought he absolutely showed out. In the right place at the right time, great in run support, just a great tackler very secure play. No big plays, but just really in the right place at the right time. Kind of what I've been saying about Torin York. No big plays, but you're just really confident in his discipline and where he's at on the field. He had a couple of nice pass breakups this game, led the team in tackles. I think Jacoby might be nipping at the heels of someone in the secondary, guys. If not as a starter, definitely for some quality reps throughout the game. You feel like Jacoby's the kind of guy, now that we've seen him through a couple games, he didn't start the first game, but now that we've seen him a couple of games, even versus Miami, I think he needs to see the field a lot more. Now, talking about this defense's inability to get a pass rush, something I'm starting to pick up on a little bit, and this is just me spitballing here. This is me speculating, analyzing, and just kind of trying to fill in the blanks and draw conclusions. Tell me what you think about this. I think this team is still kind of scarred from their inability to stop the run last year. I think they're really selling out to make sure they're really disciplined in their run techniques, standing up offensive linemen, giving themselves the option to shed in either direction on those early down plays where they're not pinning their ears back. And I think they're still not transitioning from run to pass with the optimal efficiency. I think they need to get their heads down after they realize it's a pass play a little bit more and just have that autopilot work a little bit quicker. It just seems like that's been a major point of emphasis on this team, and that's why we're not able to see a lot of D linemen just kind of beat people one-on-one on passing scenarios. On third downs, when they pin their ears back, they're getting a little bit better. I mean, it was ULM, so how much can you really draw? We're going to need to see it versus Auburn and other teams. I just want to see it on early downs. It doesn't seem like there's any pressure on early downs whenever it's an early passing play. So I think that effort to shore up the running game, which they've done successfully to start the year, is kind of dipping into this defense's ability to rush the passer. We saw a lot of three-man front this game. I know a lot of people don't like it. It's a very conservative way to play. He's using the edge guy in those scenarios as a hybrid linebacker type of guy. He's manning him up. We're seeing Fadil Diggs. We're seeing LT Overton in slot coverage, which is interesting. I don't know if we're going to see that as much versus Power 5 opponents. It's something to keep an eye on. It's just a really conservative way to play where you just have players kind of all in coverage. You dare them to run. You're disciplined with your gap scheme, and you can stop it. But versus upper echelon opponents, I'm not really sure what to expect there. It's something to watch going forward. I think they're going to do it. I think we're going to see a lot of three-man front with that fourth D lineman in coverage. It's just what's going to happen, guys. We've seen it a little bit this year. We really saw it versus ULM. I think that's the lives we have right now. But I think in terms of just getting pressure, it's going to come down to this D-line just getting better over the course of the year. Of course, we want to see some more creative blitzes. We were never going to see that versus ULM. We're going to want to see it versus Auburn and Arkansas. That's going to be the first and foremost thing we're looking for. But I think just in terms of discipline, play-to-play, there's still a lot to clean up there. And I think it looked a little bit better versus Monroe, but it was Monroe. They held the team to 222 yards, guys. Obviously, there's a huge talent discrepancy. They were able to put out a pretty good game. You can't complain too much about it, but you also can't learn too much from this kind of performance. But I'm really encouraged by Jacoby, finding Shamar Turner as your true third down edge rusher. We got to see this defense step it up because that's going to be what holds this team back this year. I think most of us have a pretty high level of confidence in this offense. That one drive where they were able to score the 3 points on Texas A&M, there was a little bit of lack of discipline on a zone read where they totally neglected the pull by the quarterback. I think it was Bryce Anderson. He totally sold out for the running back. Quarterback had a huge gain on a third down that would have taken them off the field if they would have read it correctly. They were able to drive, but they were able to hold them in the red zone. And then the possession that we missed. I don't know if you guys were able to go back and watch it. We missed a ULM possession and the end of a Texas A&M possession whenever ESPN cut the cameras on our game for whatever reason. A&M put in their third stringers that possession. ULM was able to run on them. There was some lack of gap discipline with the linebackers, but we got to see Hicks, GBD, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, Martrell Harris, Eni White, Malik Silla. We saw a lot of these guys that we're pretty excited about play, and Hicks was in a lot of plays in that stretch of game that we missed, guys. And that drive culminated in a 4th-and-1 attempt by ULM to get into the red zone, to have a really, really good chance to score points, but A&M was able to sell out, stop them on that 4th-and-1 situation, and the whole front seven really blew the play up, but Hicks was the one that got the guy on the ground. JD, Juriante Davis was able to take him down too. It was a great effort. It was a great play. Good to see these guys get involved, but still a lot to work on with those third and fourth stringers. So, guys, how are y'all feeling going into SEC play? What are some of your biggest takeaways? I think we pretty much know the negatives on this team with the lack of pass rush, the issues in coverage. I don't know what to make of that Miami game at this point. It's a young team still, a team that's still learning themselves. It could be an anomaly. It could be the way that we're going to struggle throughout the rest of the year. Miami could be really good. We need more information. But we're about to learn really quickly now that the SEC slate is starting. And I want to ask you guys a question. I've asked it in my live stream. I've asked it a couple times, but I want to formally ask it in a video. What do you think A&M's record is over the next 4 games? Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama, at Tennessee. All of those games besides Auburn look a lot more winnable now that we're 3 games into the season. Even the road game versus Tennessee after we just saw Tennessee struggle versus Florida. What's your prediction on those next 4 games? And does Jimbo, Durkin, this coaching staff, do they need to win out those 4 games for you to maintain confidence in them? I think a lot of Aggies feel that way, at least before that Tennessee game, winning those next 3. So guys, the season is upon us. The real stuff begins now. We hope it's a good one. It's all up in the air, guys. It's all wide open. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy a week of SEC football. Guys, I'll see you very soon with my pregame video, and then look out for my YouTube channel for the next live stream. I had a nice call-in show with a few callers last week. It was a fun time. We had a Q&A going, event session. People called in, voiced their concerns about the team, talked about positives. We just had a good time chopping it up. So look out for my channel. It might be Wednesday or Thursday. It depends on just how my schedule goes. Look out for that. Jump in. It's a lot of fun. So guys, with that, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. The season's upon us, guys. Gig 'em.